Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Talking City podcast. I'm Tyrone Marshall, hosting today. You'll have to forgive me; it is very late in the evening. I'm joined by Simon Bajkowski. We've just been watching Manchester City 5, Juventus 2. Si, how are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, Ty. How are you?
Yes, I'm good. Thank you, Simon. I'm good. I mean, there's only really one place to start, and I was going to say whisper it quietly, our City back, but whispering things doesn't really work on a podcast, does it? So I'm going to say it in my
No.
normal tone. But our City back?
It feels like we spent the whole of last season saying, "Are they back?" No, no, absolutely not. So it seems wrong to make judgments on one game, but I will agree with um, Mr. Pep Guardiola, who said it's their best performance in a long, long
Mm.
time. They dominated Juve, didn't they? It was kind of a an overwhelming performance from start to finish and 5 goals. I thought they were really good.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they were excellent, to be honest. It did feel like the best performance in a long, long time. I suppose if you're looking for caveats, Juve made changes, played pretty strong teams in the first two games and made five changes here. Probably some of their better players on the bench. It felt like they played poorly, but it's always one of those when a team plays well that how much of it is down to that. And I think, like I say, Guardiola was effusive about the performance, and rightly so. I can't remember the last time they played as well. Social media certainly thinks they're back, and there was a lot to like about it. And we'd kind of touched in the first two games that Wydad and Alan kind of had their moments, didn't they? Attacking through the middle, catching City on the break, but lacked the quality. This game, I mean, it felt like City controlled it. There was, although they conceded twice, one of them was an Edison mistake. One of them was a really good pass from Kenan Yildiz. I can't really remember a time they were caught on the break. They controlled the game. They dominated territory. They attacked with width. It felt like a lot of the best bits of a Pep Guardiola City team coming together at once.
Yeah, and do you know what I was really impressed with, which makes me incredibly sad? Um, they caught them offside 4 times in the first 40 minutes, ended up 5 offsides for Juve, but it just felt like every time Juve went forward in a and got to a threatening position, it was like, "Oh, it's offside."
Mm,
Juve scored from an Edison gaff very early on. Their next shot on target was the 84th minute because
yeah.
every time they went forward, City dealt with it, and a lot of that was the offside trap. And last season was so bad for particularly Kyle Walker playing people on, but generally just like the line was nowhere near where it needed to be so often. So it felt like City were organised from back to front. Rodri back in the team, and I feel like a few of his earlier games in the Club World Cup, his substitute appearances got people making clips of his misplaced passes and
Mm.
things. I don't think those people will be able to do much about that because he was very very good. So yeah, it's very hard to find anything to go at. Like you say, yeah, a bit of a weak Juventus team, and they did score twice, but a dominant performance from City.
Yeah, I completely agree. Where do we think this performance has come from then? Obviously, there's more new signings in the team. Eight new signings in 2025, four in January, four in June. The June ones certainly look impressive at the moment. There's kind of this mentality that you have to laugh every time there's a goal in this tournament or a stat reeled off. It's like with Haaland the other day, his 32nd goal of the
Yeah,
season, and City are like
yeah.
his first goal of the season. They're adamant this is a new season. Is it a mindset thing that's allowed them to change? Is it this kind of training block that they're having together in their base at Boca Raton? Is it a mixture of everything that's kind of maybe allowing them just to put last season behind them and say this is gone? And even the injury situation, I think Guardiola referred to it today after the game that it never really eased properly, and maybe it is starting to now. Kovacic still unavailable, Stones hasn't played yet, but generally the health of the squad is looking a lot better?
I think so. I think certainly the older players, are we allowed to call them older players? The more experienced players have
Mhm.
spoken about the kind of hurt that they experienced last season in sort of losing a lot and being criticized a lot. And they're not used to not winning things, and they're not used to being criticized as much as they were. And new signings will give you a kick up the backside, because if you don't play well, then they will come and take your place. But they might also just help your game. I thought, Jeremy Doku has been one of my standouts for the season, for the Club World Cup. Sorry, and he was talking about playing with Reijnders Aït-Nouri, and sort of, they speak French together and they get on well. And Aït-Nouri assisted him for the first goal today. But Reijnders was also there. Reijnders was great to watch, I thought. But is it just that the new signings have helped him, or have the new signings kind of spurred him on? Has Cherky been the one actually where Doku has gone, you know what, I need to play well because this guy looks amazing in training? But City have signed these new players in 2025, which is great. They signed Savinho last season, who looked great and then never really delivered. And they signed Doku 2 years ago, who they thought looked great, but they weren't sure about his output in the final third. And it's not been there. But just because it's not been there doesn't mean that it won't be there coming. And I think that's the exciting thing looking at this City team. Foden came on and looked bright again. There's so many players in there, not just the new signings, who you think, yeah, they could go on and be that guy this season, next
Yeah,
season, last
yeah,
season.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
Let's linger on Doku for a bit then. Player of the match, like you, I thought he was excellent. He's having a good tournament. He was really good for Belgium in the June international break. When Guardiola said last year that he's the best player in the world over 5 meters, I think he meant it to sound an awful lot nicer than maybe everyone interpreted it.
Yeah.
And I think we said at the time, in that 5 meters, he's probably kicking the ball once and he's kicking it past an opponent and then running. And it's kind of damning that, like, in the 6th meter, he has to touch it again, and that's when things start to go wrong. But
Yeah.
we're kind of seeing that happen maybe less and less with Doku. His goal was really well taken. Like I say, playing for Belgium, maybe against inferior opposition, he's looked electric. He's still only 23. If he adds that end product, there's an unbelievable player on show here, isn't there? Because the skills he has got are genuinely world class and
Yeah.
incredibly unusual, really, at the highest level of the game.
The skills he has got are the ones that are clipped up as like, oh, you never see that in today's game. This is what
Mm,
Ronaldinho used to do. Like, it really is that bright. And I don't know, I've sort of seen over the last few games, it's not just like, I would say how he dribbles every opportunity, but he's not been doing really. He's been choosing
mm,
more when to dribble and more when to pass it. And it's just better decision making in the final third, which is what, like, the frustration has been with both Doku and Savinho. It's like you can look amazing right up to the box, but then if you never turn anything in, then like it's all a bit pointless. And could someone who isn't as gifted as you do a better job? But with Doku, the ceiling remains sky high, and if he
yeah,
can, if he can just find that, he doesn't have to be amazingly productive. He just has to be sort of 50% better than he was, or anything like that. It's just really what City would love more than anything else, I think, is just that upturn in productivity from the wingers.
yeah. And like the first, his goal, City's first, was lovely combination with Aït-Nouri. And asking you a minute ago, what's changed for City this season, this period? But signing a left back, that was a good idea, wasn't it?
Well, signing a left back, but also, like, give me a left back that can do everything. He
Oh
he
yeah,
spent
super.
he spent the Al Ain game in Doku's position because Doku wasn't
Mm,
playing, and today he inverted because Doku was there. But it was just like Like, yeah, anything you throw at me, I can do, and I can do really well. And we kind of shouldn't be surprised because he's been doing it. He's been doing very well for Wolves for the last few years. But like again, to come in and look at home, that is like absolutely what City wanted and dreamed of from their signings this summer. The ability to come in and just slot straight into that first team. And yeah, he looks like he's gonna be a really fun player to watch, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He looks. I mean, he was good for Wolves, wasn't he? He was interesting to watch at Wolves. He looks a different player, doesn't he? But yeah, he's been fantastic. And I think that's the great thing about him in these two games, that he played high and wide against Aline and against Juventus. He's played a lot narrower and shown he can do both. So yeah, I think not just have they signed a left back, they've signed what looks like a brilliant one. And talking of good signings, you mentioned him before, but Tijani Reijnders as well has hit the ground running, 2 starts, 2 good performances, 65 minutes alongside Rodri tonight. And, I mean, sorry, Nico Gonzalez, but we've got a new toy to play with now. They look a really good partnership together, don't they?
Yeah, yeah, yes, 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 yeah. Can we just watch those? Can we just watch Rodri and Reinders all season, please? I think those two just kind of they just move the ball up the field so well, and I think that's also kind of what City were missing a lot of last season. That kind of central drive. Yeah. So his first game, which he played against Wydad, he was not well, he was the holding player really behind Cherky and Foden, and he still got forward a lot, but he couldn't really. He was more. Oh, he was playing as number 6. But against Juventus, he was just allowed to be in that more attacking role, and you saw the movements into the box. You saw the little balls into the box. You saw that interplay with Rodri. I think Rodri and Reinders could be something special. Like generally, team, the best midfield in the league wins the Premier League, and I think he can. It was a very early days for this shout. It must be late at night, but he looks like he can properly come in and has like. Rodri and Reinders is a 4,000% upgrade on City's midfield last season.
Yeah, it does. It feels. I mean, it isn't a huge upgrade, and it just feels like they do dovetail really well. They combined a couple of times quite nicely in that game. You put someone in front of them, whether it is Bernardo, now he's captain, whether it is Foden, whether it is Cherky. It feels like there's a midfield of real quality waiting to be unleashed
Yeah,
there.
and also he can play in different positions. So you can play him
Mm.
with Bernardo, which they did tonight, or you can, and he's like the most advanced, or you play him with a Foden or a Cherky, and he kind of slots in a bit behind them. It just a bit like you were saying with Aït-Nouri, this kind of player who's a bit of a Swiss Army knife and can do whatever you want. He just feels like a Pep Guardiola midfielder. He
Mm.
feels like exactly what Pep Guardiola would want a midfielder to look like. And he's slightly older than the other signings, but he does bring that experience where he's not like he's been at the top for ages, but he's just kind of popped at AC Milan, especially in this last year, and he's carrying on that form into City, which is no easy feat. But he just looks he looks like prime Ilkay Gundogan, which is what they would like him to be.
Yeah, definitely. He has got those sort of Gundogan vibes, hasn't he? Gundogan first spell at City vibes, which is hugely encouraging. We've talked a lot there about the new signings. I guess let's talk about one other player, Phil Foden. 2 goals in the group stage. He said after that Wydad game, new season, fresh me, and if any player, we've kind of joked here about City being adamant this is a new season, but if any player kind of needed a line in the sand and a new start, I guess it was Foden. And he spoke very eloquently after the FA Cup final about the kind of difficulties he's had this season, and we can't just say, "Oh, he scored 2 goals, he looks happy, things must be fine now." We don't know what the situation is, but if City can get him back to a position where he's happy, he's enjoying his football, then He's another player that can make a huge difference to this team. If we're looking at 23-24 Foden rather than 24-25 Foden, that's game changing potential for this team, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's only like I think it's 2 weeks since they flew to the States, and it was a real question, wasn't it? Like, do they take Foden?
Mm,
Because not that he wouldn't have been able to do a job, but he was so far away from his self that we all saw in 23-24 when he was the best player in the league that you sort of thought, well, is it worth taking him and sort of carrying on this or just giving him rest? And he's out there with his family and they're having like family time when they're not training
mm,
and things like that. But it's just a difference when he came on with Echeverry in that FA Cup final, trying to get back in it against Palace. He was anonymous, and
yeah,
this 19-year-old debutant wasn't. You now seeing that spark from him. I think we tried to do like 3 step overs or something as soon as he came on the pitch, and one of them came off. But and then he's involved in the goal for his goal, which is an easy tap in, but like he's there for it and he's
mm,
taking it and he's taking the joy from it. It just looks like there's a spark in him that there wasn't. And again, if City are looking for things to take from this tournament, they would absolutely love it if it is proven to be Foden's revival.
yeah, definitely. That would be. I mean, arguably the biggest thing they could take from it is getting Foden back to a position where he's at that level again. And if they do, it adds to this kind of idea we've got at the moment that this is maybe, I was going to say the best squad Guardiola has had. Maybe that's overdoing it at the moment, but one of the deepest. The options there are amazing, and I think we're still kind of in this position where there's a bit of rotation going on in this tournament. And it was 7 changes from Alan to Juventus, but we're getting closer to him picking his strongest team. I mean, the route they're probably going to have through now. He might not need to pick a strongest team to the final, but we'll come on to that. But the depth in this team looks remarkable, doesn't it? Haaland comes off the bench to score. Foden comes off the bench to score. Bob and Cherky came off the bench to score on Sunday. There's
Yeah,
huge depth here, and I thought it was interesting that Bernardo spoke after the game and was asked about that, and he said, "We've got a big squad here in this tournament, and hopefully for the season, and we kind of know that Guardiola doesn't really want that big squad." Although he started to give a little bit mixed messages, hasn't he? I think he did say last year that given the kind of calendar now, he needs a bigger squad, but then he gets one, and he's kind of like looking at who we can get rid of, isn't he? Looking at who we can just
yeah,
move away. Like, oh, there's too many here. You go over there. But it does show that this squad, yes, I think there's even within the 24 outfield players here, I think you probably need a couple to go on loan and maybe a couple to go permanently. But it
yeah.
does feel like there's the squad depth here, isn't there, that they can make use of?
Yeah, yeah, but nobody wants to go. That's the problem. And
Well,
like they're it just adds to things. And you've walked away from the game thinking, who starts the next game?
mm,
Because everyone has come on and done a job. And I said to you when it was 3-1, it was like game over. Like, be nice if they pushed on and scored more.
mm,
But you're not expecting them to. But they did. And it's that kind of hunger and competitiveness, and I want to show what I can do as well, that is really kicking them on. And we kind of said it before the game, so we can't just take credit for it now. But all this talk about wanting to avoid Real Madrid, or you want to avoid Real Madrid, well, like, fine, yeah, I suppose so. But like, I don't think Real Madrid would want to face this City team. And they've certainly not started sort of like house on fire. And as the Madrid that everyone knows, they're sort of something new under Xabi Alonso, and they're far away from what he wants them to be and stuff like that. So, yes, it is Real Madrid, but like, yeah, it just felt like it is a it does feel like a bit of a new City squad, with a fresh attitude and rejuvenated, and Rodri coming back and Foden coming back and Doku progressing and all these things. So it's just full of positives, and yeah, the squad will have to be trimmed. Um, but it's going to be a hell of a job to do it, and you're going to have to make people unhappy to do it because everyone wants to be part of it at the minute.
Yeah, well, I mean, that competition for places is maybe summed up with Foden and Cherky in that it's probably difficult at the moment to envisage a scenario where both of them start. I guess one of them could start on the right and one of them could start kind of in that attacking midfield role. But Bernardo is the club captain, played well tonight. Savinio scored an incredible goal. I think one of Foden or Cherky is going to start. But at the moment, if City reach the final and Pep's picking his best team, I'm not sure there's a role for both, which is why kind of when they both come on, maybe they both feel like at the moment they need to be
Yeah.
making an impact. This isn't just about pre-season, get minutes in the legs. This is about I need to perform now. It's the end of June, but what I'm doing here and now could have a knock-on effect that runs into October, November, December in terms of team selection.
Yeah, and also it's kind of, it's a bit fluid. No one knows quite how City are gonna shape up for the season. And
Mm.
Foden and Cherky are probably more tens than eights, shall we say. Um, is there room for one of them in the team? Is there room for two of them in the team? We don't know. But they will force that issue or they won't force that issue based on how they play and how everyone plays. But, Pep is out there in the States looking for answers and looking for the way, looking for, solutions for the next 12 months and beyond. And, you know, pretty sure the way they will come out of this tournament is probably the way they will set up, at least at the start of the season. So everyone is playing for the right to be in the team for the first weekend of the season. How even though it's 6 weeks away still. There is like that competition and that excitement from everyone. And now that they've smashed Juventus, you sort of think, well, yeah, it wasn't the best Juventus team, but like the why can't they win the tournament? We've been waiting for them to have this big test and this big marker of where they're at. Like, why can't they go all the way now?
Well, yeah. I mean, let's get onto that then. I would guess that they might even be favourites at this stage, given that performance and the draw. And we're recording this before the final Group H games, but their presumed path now would be last 16 against Salzburg or Al Hilal, quarter against probably Inter, maybe Fluminense, semi-final against probably Benfica or Chelsea. I mean, that looks pretty routine to me, really. I mean,
Yeah.
the only team in there I think you'd really worry about is Inter, and it feels like they've kind of had the spirit sucked out of them by what happened in the Champions League. Obviously, if Real
And
Madrid
lost the coach.
and lost their coach, yeah, and they've not been at their best, I don't think, in this tournament. I mean,
Yeah.
what I would say is that if Real Madrid have somehow blown it against Salzburg overnight, then you may as well turn this podcast off at this stage. But let's talk as if they haven't and presume that they haven't, even though they haven't been at their best in this tournament. I mean, that City really should reach the final here. And we don't want to get carried away on the basis of one performance, but if they play like that, I can't see any of those teams stopping them reaching the final.
No. I mean, they beat Chelsea home and away last season
Mm.
when City were terrible. So you would back them if they get Chelsea in the semi. Inter is the big one, you would say, in the quarters if they get past Fluminense, but they haven't really been convincing at all in this tournament, and lost the coach and things like that.
Mm.
It's set up for City. It's the better side of the draw. They avoid PSG, they avoid Bayern, they avoid probably Real. And so, yeah, but also from a logistical point of view, it means that their last 16 game is in Orlando.
Quarterfinals in Orlando.
The quarterfinals in Orlando, and then it's the semi-final and final in New York. So City are based in Miami, so it's less traveling around, which is also good for training, good for not training when you've got family time. So they've kind of, it's all working out for them.
Yeah, it really is all working out for them. It feels like it's been pretty pretty serene progress for them. I guess the only downside for City fans who haven't made the trip and are back in the UK is that the last 16 game kicks off at 2 a.m. again.
Yes. Yeah, well, worth staying up for if it's anything like the last few games.
Absolutely, yes. Get that in your diary. Get your alarm set for maybe 1:30 a.m. on what would it be, Tuesday morning. And if you haven't got a DAZN subscription, and if you haven't, I mean they are free, so probably should sign up the way City are playing. But you can always follow it on the MEN. We've got your backs. That's all for tonight. We'll leave it there. Simon, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ty.
Please remember to leave us a like, a review if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe to get the latest Talking City podcasts in your feed. That's all for now, and we'll be back next week.